hang out and do dad stuff.
We're going live now.
Are we?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Take us on a trip. Radiation glowing, mutants all around. Sometimes we laugh, sometimes we cry, but we know no matter what, we'll always have the time. Talk about the wastelands, talk about the lore, talk about surviving radiation storms, talk about the doubts, talk about the fears, talk about the game we all love. It's Fallout through the years. That Fallout show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to That Fallout Show right here on We Just Love Games Network. You're listening to episode 67 with special guest Dave Chafinz. Hi, Dave. How are you?
Hi, I tried to Google that Fallout show, and the search results have gotten much harder, I'm telling you.
Did they kill our SEO? How
A
dare
little
they?
bit. I'm really sorry. It just assumed that I was thinking like an 80-year-old grandma, like, that Fallout show, yeah, that one.
That
at that
Fallout Show. That's so
Yeah.
funny. Well,
It
we
is
have
really funny. Our Facebook following for that Fallout show just got like
obliterated.
so many new people, and I know that very few of those people were actually looking for us,
yeah,
and it cracks me up because
Yeah.
they were trying to.
it's a trap.
I think you were just
true.
at the right place at the wrong time. That was my best Dr. John impression I've ever done in my life.
Oh boy. Well, I'm your co-host Vendertron. Also joining us this evening is the wonderful Shalene. Hello, Shalene.
Hi guys,
Welcome
hello.
back. How was your week been?
Ooh,
Or is that maybe a question we don't want to talk
I'm
about?
triggered. I am triggered.
Okay.
Never
Never
it was a
mind.
week. It was
Never
a week.
mind.
I'm here now. It's over.
For those of you tuning in live, you may notice that we are once again Rickless and Reckless this evening, but that's okay. We have Dave. So
I
thanks
can
for
grow out
being
my
here, Dave.
sideburns. I can be like early Rick.
Quick,
I
grow
can,
them
Rick
I can
doesn't
do
even
it.
have sideburns anymore.
Yeah, Rick
I
doesn't
know.
even have hair anymore. He like just buzzes it now.
Mm-hmm.
That's
It actually
true.
looks good. Yeah. He can pull it off well.
I preferred mutton chop Rick, but I mean,
That's just what I picture in my head. When I pictured the perfect Rick in my head, I pictured it the button chop Rick. The prime Rick Prime.
Rick Prime. Sub now. Oh, man. Well, anyways, this is our second installment of the limited series about that other Fallout show right here on That Fallout Show. Thank you to everybody who joins us live every week on Friday, 6:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time right here on twitch.tv/WeJustLoveGames. It's always nice to have live listeners, but if you miss the show, that's okay because we upload it to various podcast platforms. And I hear, Shalene, that Google Podcasts is going away.
yeah, I think it already went.
It's already
actually.
gone.
It's already
a thing of the
gone.
past.
Yeah, it's become part of YouTube Music. Is what I understand.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty much all podcast services, Stitcher, everything
Mhm.
is gone except for Apple Podcasts and Spotify. This is our personal 1984, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, this is the most Orwellian time to be a podcaster.
Well, you can also help us to promote the show. Share us on social media. Send us emails. Tell us what you think of the show. Like, subscribe, retweet. Tell your friends about it. Join us live on Friday evenings. Don't forget, we are sponsored by Oak and Crow Coffee. If you head on over to oakandcrow.com, you can pick up a bag of We Just Love Coffee blend, and $2 from every purchase of that blend goes to the Children's Miracle Network. And word on the street is we may be working on a new coffee label. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. Maybe it'll be a new blend too. I don't know. We have to follow up with Rick on that one because he's coordinating. We are going to be covering some news. And Shalene is going to walk us through that. And then we're going to hop right into our episode summary, which will include Easter eggs and references to the Fallout universe. We have Dave on the show as a special guest who is going to lend his brilliance to the Fallout world and bring that to our interpretations as well. We may throw in some Fallout gameplay. I've been playing Fallout 76 like crazy these last couple weeks. Shalene, I believe, has a weapon of a week. We might have some emails. And yeah. And Shalene,
Yeah.
anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I'd like to take a second and just tell the people thank you. We had a really tremendous reception to the revival of that Fallout show. We had so many YouTube comments and emails and social media remarks, and it really felt nice.
Aw.
It was lovely. So just
Listen,
I just
if
wanted to
Jesus
thank
taught me one thing,
everybody.
it's the revival that makes everything, you know.
Also, there was something else I was gonna say, and it just slipped my mind. So if
Numbers,
it was important, I
people.
would come
Are we
back.
once again the number one podcast in Turkmenistan?
I don't think so. Let me have a look at the charts here.
While Shalene is doing that, Dave, why don't you take the opportunity to tell us what you've been up to and plug some of the work that you've been, some of the projects you've been working on?
Yeah, so I've done a Fallout podcast I think for years. Like that's just like it's the ghost that keeps on following me around. For 2.5 years though, I've been doing Rad Rolls, which is the latest Fallout game. Fun fact: the newest Fallout game is a tabletop role-playing game, much like Dungeons and Dragons. And so I decided that I wanted to make like the B tier Critical Role of Dungeons and Dragons podcast, but instead it's all Fallout, all the time. We've done a full campaign in New Orleans that had like getting drunk on a carousel and passing out, a Christmas town full of cannibals that were eating like blood fudge and all kinds of BS like
Blood
that.
fudge, I love it.
Yeah, all kinds of wackiness. And right now we decided to take a campaign and set it in the geographical center of America. So it was kind of like a town that was supposed to be like the great melting pot of America. It's set in Kansas. It's a lot of fun. There's over 100 episodes, 100,000 listeners across the world. It's my favorite project that I do currently. I've had so much fun making it, and it's a great team of people from all across America, from LA to Seattle to New York to right down where I'm from in West Virginia. So give it a listen. It's on all podcast services and YouTube, and that's my plug.
Nice.
Bam.
Okay.
Oh,
Shalene?
and as far as
Oh.
charts, we're like, I think I got an email that said we were like number 78 in Australia in the games category.
Wow.
Nice.
Top
Very
100. There you
nice.
go. That's a
Um,
significant achievement, actually. Achievement
So-
unlocked.
I think our peak in America, the peak, we were at like in the 50s, which is pretty good. Pretty good.
yeah, good old TFS used to be on top of the world, but no
I know.
more.
I
We
know.
are back on the charts, though. We are second from last on the video game charts in the United States. And according to the internet, we are also currently number 31 in video games in Great Britain.
Oh, that's
So,
great.
Thank you, Great Britain.
Yeah.
We love you too.
I mean, we were on top of the world, but now we're just in the cranberry bog.
Oh, excuse me, I got the country wrong. It wasn't Austria, it was the Czech Republic.
Oh,
Mhm. Yes.
okay.
We were
Okay.
always doing great in like Turkmenistan. It was
know,
wild.
Middle
VPNs,
Europe
you
is a
guys,
great
VPNs.
Eastern Europe. It's a great
Yeah.
great place to be
Yeah. Hey,
for
Shalene,
podcasts.
you want to talk about some news?
Of course I do.
Okay, let's top into the news.
If you like news, you're gonna love our next segment.
Take it away, my dear.
Okay, we are going to start out with some Fallout on Prime news. Fallout has been one of the biggest openings ever for Amazon. This is a Hollywood Reporter article by Rick Porter. And the Fallout has been its second biggest series ever over the 16 days of release. And in the United States, it was number one. So 2.9 billion minutes of viewing time it racked up in the US over the first 5 days, according to Nielsen. And that is the best opening for a series on Prime Video, beating Reacher's series premiere week in early 2022 by more than 1 billion minutes. So that's great.
Uh,
And the series,
Minutes. This seems a little bit superfluous. Like 1 billion minutes
a
have been
billion
watched.
minutes.
Like, okay, we know that's, what is it? Like 60 to 65 to 70 minutes per episode, maybe. And you have 8 episodes. So like per person,
I
how
think
many
they measure it
trillions of
in that way
seconds
because
is
of
that is? Like how many trillions of seconds?
they're
Listen, in
measuring
this
it that way because people don't necessarily finish the show, right? Like they
Yeah.
universe,
yeah.
you're a Protectron vendor. So how about you do the math
How many
and come back to us?
pineapples does, or is it equivalent to, how the scientists use fruit as a size for things? Anyways,
Goodness.
7 cantaloupes.
7 cantaloupes worth of minutes. Anyways, I'm being a butt. Continue.
That's fine. I'm used to it by now.
Ooh. Ooh.
The show had more than double the second place show, which was Bluey. Bluey had 1.39 billion minutes of viewing in the week leading up to and
Guilty as charged. Bluey every day.
I
all
feel
day.
like,
Daddy,
okay, I need to go
watch
back to
Bluey.
this. I got to go back to this minutes thing, Shalene, because I think that we should be announcing and measuring our podcast in how many minutes people have listened. Like we are now at 1.68 billion minutes listened on GameStack podcast.
Friend, I absolutely
525,600 minutes.
Yes, thank you.
I refuse to calculate how many minutes people have listened to our podcasts.
It's like when I
Absolutely
booted up
refuse.
Fallout 76 recently. I booted up Fallout 76 and I thought I was going to play it. And then I read my hours and it was 1,385. And I was like, yeah,
Those are rookie
that's
numbers.
A lot.
Those are rookie numbers, friend.
That's
You
a
gotta-
lot of
Yeah,
time.
pump up
Those numbers.
Yeah.
So Leor asks, "What's the flamingo count?" Which always makes me laugh.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how does Fallout measure to other shows?
Well, it's the best one. So, yay. Good job.
Okay, good.
That's it. I'm done with this article. I'm done. We're moving on.
Okay.
And I did remember the other thing that I was going to say. We got an email asking us when the next episode was going to post of that Fallout show. So just to clarify the schedule, we are alternating weeks between that Fallout show and GameStack podcast. So we're only recording every other week.
Yeah.
So just to let you guys know. And the next piece of news, this is the most awkward and bad flow of news segment I've ever done.
You got this.
Like in the
fine.
history of my life.
Oh.
But you know what's really great is Fallout 3. I've always loved it. I mean, you guys have too. I know Fallout 3. Well, you can get it for free via Amazon Prime if you are an Amazon Prime subscriber. It is completely free. So until June the 12th, you can claim your free copy and redeem it via Good Old Games. And Good Old Games is the most stable way to play Fallout 3 on a modern machine. So strongly recommend that you claim this, even if you already have it on Steam or another platform. Grab it on GOG because it is the most stable way to get it to run on a modern machine. So definitely check that out. And what about you guys? You guys ever play Fallout 3?
Yeah,
I played it literally today. I was literally playing it.
I don't remember much of
really?
it though, Shalene, because I spent like 98.7% of my time in the sewers in Fallout 3.
Yeah.
There's no sewers in Fallout 3. There's only metros.
Metros, that's what I
from
mean.
here
That's what I mean.
to Wazoo. And
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. It's really cool every time I go to DC, which is fairly near where I was. I went there a lot in college. And I go into the those covered domes with all the glass and stuff in it. And I'm like, yeah, I bet there's some ghouls down here. I bet they're hanging out here. They're gonna come out of the corner and get me, I'm sure.
Yes.
I'm sure it's gonna happen.
And if there's no ghouls, you'll at least find some plastic forks that you can take home with you.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Something
My
like that.
goodness.
Although it's funny because I've been playing 4 and 3 interchangeably. And so in
Ooh.
4, I'm like little trash panda. I'm just like sucking up all that stuff. But in 3, I guess my brain started thinking I was playing 4. And so I was like, why am I so overweight? And I just have a bunch of literal junk that I'm like, I can't
Yeah,
do
you've got
anything
to
with
be
this.
more discerning in Fallout
Yeah,
3.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to think about that cap to weight ratio. Yeah.
What's your cap to weight ratio, man?
Yeah, the ideal cap to weight ratio is at least 10. 10 caps per 1 pound of weight. Yeah. It's the
I
only
like
way to
that.
play.
I like that. Yeah, I've been back playing that. Fallout 3. It's good. It's a good game.
I always
I
felt
think-
guilty for that guy that hung out outside of Rivet City and he's like, please, can I just have some water? Every time I would give him water because I felt so bad.
The water beggars are so depressing. So
A
depressing.
hot take on Fallout 3 is Fallout 1 and Fallout 3 literally have everything that's great about the other games in them. Like
Yeah, that's
those
true.
those two are the progenitors of literally everything else. Like all the like Fallout E concepts, all from there.
I'm trying to think of an argument against that, and I really can't. So I think you're right. That's interesting.
I'm a genius. I'm a Fallout genius.
Well, let's
That's
not
why
get-
you're here.
let's not
That's
get
why we've
carried
asked you
away.
here today. Well, we have one final bit of news. This is a GameSpot article by Claire Lewis, and I just I threw this in here because I wanted to talk about it. The upcoming Fallout 76 update, Skyline Valley, looks really cool. It looks very neat. It will include a vault that is run by ghouls, and there are new electrified ghouls that look really cool. There will be these really epic looking rad storms with red swirling skies, and it just looks super neat. There are vicious man-eating turkeys, and
Yes.
I think that's really all you need to know. Man-eating turkeys. I mean, do you need anything else to sell you on this? But
Right.
it just looks brilliant, and I'm
Man-eating
so
turkeys.
excited to check it out.
When is this happening, Shalene?
This is scheduled to release in June. They haven't given us a precise date yet.
Oh
But-
man, I hope I come back from my trip to Toronto and it's just like I land right in the Fallout universe off the runway. And
Yeah, they are extending the map southwards for Fallout 76.
that's exciting.
Yeah,
I
I'm
quite
really
agree.
This is
I'm
the
really
first
looking
time we're
forward
gonna
to it.
see. This is the first time we're gonna see map extension since.
There are
when?
giant rabbits too. Breaking news. Robots. Giant robots too. Breaking news from our in-studio producer, Archin.
Huh.
Yes,
yeah,
I think you'll
they have a few different real life locations that I'm interested to see. One of them was
Vault
Natural
63.
Bridge, which is like one of the classic Southwest Virginia field trip locations.
Mhm.
And in fact, here's a picture of me and my wife at Natural Bridge on a date.
Oh,
So I'm excited to
Look at
to
this
go
cool
back,
dude. Oh, he
go
is
back
so
and see some
cool.
of those locations.
So as a West Virginian, these are familiar locations to you, then?
These are
I see?
Virginian locations.
Yeah.
They're actually directly in Virginia. They're
Okay.
kind of on the border. The kind of the borders you go down. There's an interstate called 81, Interstate 81.
Mhm,
Runs from like
mhm.
DC to I don't know
Mhm.
somewhere down there. But it pretty much runs the whole of that Shenandoah Valley. And so this is pretty much from like outside of DC. It seems like all the way down to Roanoke, Virginia, which is kind of like the biggest city in Southwest
Mhm.
Virginia. So none of this is actually Virginia. You're technically still in Appalachia, not in West Virginia though.
Interesting.
There's the massive robots that you were talking about.
Yes, they are a Robo Brain variant.
So
Yeah,
I-
Virginia has those too.
okay.
Those massive robots. We just
Mhm.
go down there and just kick their butts every day. Like, that's
So I
just a-
assume that those are going to definitely be part of like
Keep
events
going
or
to see the
something.
turkeys,
Okay.
if you
yes,
don't mind.
Yes, ma'am.
If you don't mind, I just
show me
I
turkeys.
want you to
Show
see
me
the turkeys. The turkeys are towards the end.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you just want to scroll a little bit. And I know that this is primarily an audio platform, and this is annoying except for like the 5 people
Oh,
who watch
look
it
at
on video.
them.
There they are.
They're massive.
There they are. Look at the turkeys.
They look like they've been half baked. Like you took the turkey from the oven and then you put its head back on it and its legs, like
Oh
you
my
cut off earlier,
goodness.
and you just like let it go about.
That's
That's
brilliant.
a great idea for this holiday season. Fallout 76 turkeys.
This
Asulio reports that those turkeys are death claw size. So cannot wait, cannot wait. Imagine just I want to cook them. I really enjoy turkey. It's probably one of my favorite meats. So a death claw sized turkey, and you can cook that. You can have like a turducken, except the turkey is huge.
Yeah, you could
That's
have like a when turkey,
yes,
a a
amazing.
a death when turkey. What other birds are there in Fallout?
There are
Uh,
not a ton of birds, are
No,
there?
we've got the
Scorch
scorch
beast.
beast.
We've got the chickens.
You've got chickens. You got
Mhm.
cazadors.
That's not a bird, though, is it?
I
Is
mean,
that a
they might as
bird?
well be. They're
Yeah,
terrifying.
they're horrible.
You've
They're
got golden
horrible.
geckos. Those things can really fly. Like they could just like jump off the ground and just like
Bloat
fly right
flies,
at you.
sting wings.
Wow. Okay, this took a turn that I did not expect. I
Anyways,
don't think I any longer want a post-apocalyptic turducken. Thank you.
I want
Mm.
turkey. When's the next
That's it for the
holiday?
news.
The next holiday
You know
is.
what? It doesn't have to be a holiday to have turkey. You can
You're
have turkey
right.
whenever you want it.
You're right. You're right. Yeah.
Dang.
You know what I
Some like
also want?
self-help in here.
You know what I
Nobody
also
can
want,
stop you.
Shalene? I want to talk about episode 2. Let's do it. All right. So, as normally, I'm going to walk through the episode, and feel free to stop me wherever, at whatever point you want to talk about things. But and I'll stop at stills and things too, like that. But episode 2, the show opens with scenes of puppies, Shalene, being thrown into furnaces, and I just have to say that I'm really not a fan of that at all.
Yeah, same. I was very upset by furnace puppies. Uh, before we really get into the meat of the story, though, since we have Dave here, can we just ask a general, Dave, what do you think of this show? What do you think of it
Yeah,
in
actually, that's
general?
a good question.
And we're
Shalene.
only spoiling one episode at a time, so no spoilers past episode 2, please.
Well,
But
I mean, when Boba Fett comes with Master Chief
I
and
know that
Commander
was a
It's a
Shepard,
wild
trap.
I mean, it's
time.
just
It's a
crazy.
trap.
I watched this. I watched this with my wife, who like knows that I like doesn't play the games, knows some of the stuff because I've talked about it, but was actually interested in watching the show and was like, "Hey, yeah, don't watch that without me." Um, because I kind of like it. I think that it did. I think it did mystery really well. Like
Mhm.
Westworld is a great show because it had enough mystery in it to be like, okay, what's actually going on? I want to know more
Absolutely.
about this world. I want to know more about what's going on.
Mhm.
Like they left enough mystery and answered enough of it, like from, and I'm not spoiling anything, but what's going on in Vault 33? What's happening with this ghoul guy? What's going on with, this
Mhm.
enclave guy, which we see in episode 2? Like all of those threads and stuff were introduced in such a way that I'm like, oh, okay. They know what they're doing.
They
They know what's
do.
happening.
Yeah.
And they do a great job of like doing a Fallout story. Like I'm so happy that a video game adaptation is not just adapting the story of a video game, because stories of video games are not great and they're not supposed to be great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's great to have it set in this world and having it be its own thing. It's my favorite show this year.
You know, one of the
Um,
things that I worry about in hearing you talk about that and hearing the news stories about how successful the show is that I think that people are going to go, "Oh, Fallout was so successful. We should make other shows about video games too." When really it's not about that, right? It's about making a show based on the universe, but
Mhm.
it's they're missing the point of it, right?
Right.
And like I don't think every video game can be made into a show, but I think that we're gonna see companies try to do that, and keep up with Amazon. It was a good contract for them to score big time. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
yeah,
and kind of going back to these puppies that are burning up. One thing I liked about the show in comparison to the adaptation of The Last of Us is The Last of Us watching it like right after a pandemic, right after you just went through it, and it's
yeah.
like the
Yeah.
downers are so down. like this show honestly does downers so well because like they could have in episode 1 they could have really laid into that bomb drop. Like they could have had like the holding the daughter and being like, I'm coming back. Like you could have really
Yeah,
laid
yeah,
into
yeah.
that and they
But
just
that's
let
what
it
Fallout
exist.
is, right? It's the terribleness juxtaposed over the don't care attitude, right?
Exactly.
Yes, it is
Exactly.
darkness meets whimsy.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Exactly. Yes. Anyways, dead puppies.
Dead
Yes.
puppies. So the episode opens up with puppies being thrown into a furnace, which we don't like. Of course, Ink Spots plays into each life. Some rain must fall. And then I found it interesting that on the wall where he's um, the scientist is weighing these puppies, it says incinerate newborns weighing less than 10 ounces.
Hmm.
Um, and he weighs this one pup that is 10 ounces on the nose, which
Mm-mm, mm-mm. If
is
you'll
it less?
notice, if you read the scale itself,
It's
it's at
less.
9.8 ounces. He records a
Uh,
weight of 10 ounces.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so he records the weight of 10 ounces in the book. Brand's CX404, which is the dog that we come to know and love in the show so far, who is a German Shepherd, female German Shepherd, I think. Um, and he basically takes this dog and like hoards him in his laboratory, which is
Mhm.
exactly what I would do. There would be just more of them, not just one. It would be puppies everywhere, Shalene. There would be dogs all over the place. I would get caught immediately.
Yes.
The
It is
Republic of
impressive that he
Dogs.
manages to get away with this.
Yeah. And this is the first time we see Michael Emerson. And if you don't know who Michael Emerson is, he is the actor who is playing Ziggy Wilzig in that other Fallout show. And Emerson has previously worked with Jonathan Nolan on other shows like Person of Interest, which Nolan has also created. And he was a main part of the cast. He also starred in The Practice, Saw in 2004, Lost from 2006 to 2010, and more recently, he's currently doing filming as Dr. Leland Townsend in Evil, which I think is started in 2019.
Okay.
Yeah. So Emerson, I think, great choice for this role. We know that he's a scientist, but do we know that he is Enclave? Is this
Yes.
Enclave?
This is the
We're
Enclave.
sure of that.
Yes.
For sure.
Okay. Because I was watching this and, he's got a Pip Boy, and I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe is he Vault-Tec? I was confused by that.
I'm
Well,
curious how much they'll lean into that, like of what kind of relationship like the Enclave will have, because like we understand the Enclave from the aspect of Fallout 3 of President John Henry Aiden. That's the best impression I'll do tonight, by the way, and that won't be the only one. Like we understand him from that aspect, but not from this aspect that they're showing us in the show and how they'll
Yeah.
relate to the other ongoing factions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, the
Yes.
first time I seen this, I'm like, dog meat, right? Because, yeah.
I think that's what we all thought, really.
And
And
like,
I know that this dog has its own serial number, but I called it dog meat the whole time.
oh, yeah. And, the funny thing is like, I'm already now in the first 5 minutes of this show in a state of total panic and anxiety for what's going to happen to this dog,
Yes,
right?
same.
And like, I don't even know, like, I can't even watch it. You should have seen me trying to watch it with my partner. Like, it was just because like we're dog loving people, and we just generally don't watch shows that throw dogs into furnaces. So anyways, that was an odd sort of thing for them to write into the show. I feel like that's
Mhm.
just generally not something that people enjoy. Um yeah. Anyways, so he's in his personal lab with the dog, and he gives the dog a little toy, and he's training him on the treadmill
It's
as a
so cute.
puppy.
That's the only
Super
way he
cute.
can get him to run is with the teddy bear.
Yeah. And it's cute. He's trying to train the dog, but the dog is just not having it. Like, it's difficult to train.
Mhm.
Keeps her hidden in this little hole in the wall behind a lab bench and some equipment. And she's got a little bed in there with her little stuffy toy and stuff.
And they give
I
you
love
the
it.
opportunity to really contrast the way that the other dogs are being trained compared to the life that this dog is having as a clearly beloved companion. And that's to me, it's a very interesting setup
Yeah.
in terms of
Yeah. This next scene is really interesting. I didn't take it as a significant part until watching later in the season, but he appears to be working with some sort of device here, in a small vial that I don't know. He takes it and he injects it into his neck, and we
It's
don't
clearly
know.
Nuka-Cola Quantum. I mean, obviously,
Yeah,
duh.
Nuka-Cola Quantum, lyophilized quantum, and we don't really know what this does yet until later on in the series, right? But what were your speculations when you first watched? Like what this was? What do you think this was?
honestly, I don't really have a theory at this point, and I have not finished the series, by the way, Dave. I'm on episode 6.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I haven't finished it yet.
Well, sorry
Uh
about the Boba Fett stuff.
well, I mean, that had already been spoiled for me. I knew Boba Fett was going to be in the series. The really shocking part was when Mark Hamill, DH Mark Hamill showed up.
Wow.
Yeah. Um,
Amazing.
but I just was thinking about that he was doing science that he probably was not supposed to be doing. So
Yeah, on himself too, no less.
Mhm.
So,
I thought it was like a mutation kind of thing. Like he was like gonna give himself some sort of like, cause like my most recent Enclave exposure has been through 76. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's where you get the serums. Got to get your
Mhm.
kangaroo hop on. So I thought
yeah,
that was like
got to
something
make
like
sure you
that.
have the starch genes perk equipped.
Exactly.
Yeah. Um, so he injects himself with this substance, whatever it is. Obviously, it looks very painful. And shortly after, he wakes up on the couch. He's resting. The dog's licking his face, and his colleague comes into the room and discovers the dog in the hole in the wall. Um, and obviously, he knows, and his colleague knows, the dog's not supposed to be there. And they kind of fight. There's an altercation. Wilzig falls to the floor. His colleague pushes the alarm, and the dog jumps to the rescue and kills his colleague.
See, I thought that this argument was less about the dog and more about the science, the
Could be.
unauthorized science.
Could be. But I mean, if you watch the scene, his colleague comes in and looks at the dog and then looks at him.
Okay.
So, but it could be both. I don't know. Um, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way I interpreted it. But
Yeah. So like, why did he? My question is like, if he didn't know he was going yet, why did he inject the stuff into him? I mean, I guess he's just doing it for fun.
yeah,
Funsies.
because you're right, Dave, because he never really actually decided to flee until the altercation with his colleague.
Right. He was sort of forced out.
And that was after, right?
I think so.
So there,
No,
he's
it
sort
looks
of,
like he's looking at the stuff. I don't know.
it's a good point. It's a good
He's
point.
like, this dog
Regardless,
has a teddy bear, and I
Yeah.
must push the
Yeah,
alarm.
yeah.
Dog has
Bro
a
is
teddy
a
bear.
snitch.
Fire alarm immediately.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Anyways, Wilzig realizes that, you know, the Enclave is probably going to kill both him and the dog now that the dog has murdered his colleague, in self-defense, and he decides that he's going to flee. So he heads outside with the dog. And I love this part, Shalene, because the alarms are going off and he's running outside the building. And then suddenly he's outside, he drops his stuff, and out from the ground pops a turret. And the turret
So-
is so good. It says on the screen, please remain calm.
Perfect.
So my question is, over this scene and section, where is this? Where do you think this is?
I believe we're still on the West Coast. I think we're probably in Oregon or Washington
You think
State.
so?
I do,
It looks
yeah, because of the
snowy.
snow. The snow is what makes me think we are in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
Mm.
I love this scene because he realizes the turret's there and he starts running with the dog, and the turret just unloads on him, and every single bullet misses both him and the dog, which is exactly what I would expect to happen, because that's exactly what happens you know, when you come up against a turret in a Fallout game, right? They're pretty bad. Unless
I don't know.
those
They shred me.
turrets at, is it Harper's Ferry or where are they? Over in the
Oh yeah, the
Yes,
west,
the
ones with
Harper's Ferry.
explosive rounds.
Mhm.
Yeah.
in the compound. Oh, those are bad. Yeah. Um. Anyways, that's the end of the opening scene. And we see the splash of the Fallout logo with bullets flying across. And Rick had made a remark in the last episode that he really loved how the Fallout logo was different with every episode. And so I
Yes.
wanted to draw attention to that as well.
Mhm.
The opening scene for the episode, after the intro, is Lucy, and she's walking through the wasteland, and Bing Crosby starts playing "Don't Fence Me In." I think it's just the perfect choice of music, and I think for me in watching this scene, what I realized was this was my first real connection with the main character of the show, Lucy. Because this was the first time I really watched her sort of scavenging and traversing through the wasteland, much like what I would do when I'm playing a Fallout game. And I
Mhm.
really felt connected to her in that way.
Right.
Yeah. Any thoughts or comments?
Not really.
I think it's cool that they show when she leaves, they kind of show the Santa Monica Pier behind
Mhm.
her, and it makes me
Mhm.
wonder about like, you know, the topology, the geography, what's going on, you know, as far as like Fallout 1 locations and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a scene here where she comes across a tumbleweed and it startles her, and she like doesn't know, in her naivety she like comes to she comes up against this tumbleweed, and she sort of reaches for her syringer because she doesn't know what to do. She's never seen a tumbleweed before. She's a vault dweller, right? I thought it was so cute. And then she was like, you know, oh, okay, like she wasn't sure if it was like some mutated creature that wanted to
Yes.
kill her, or and then it just kept on rolling on by, and she was like, huh.
So
It's
I
sort
do
of,
know that a lot of this like desert shots and stuff were filmed in Namibia, in the Namibian desert.
Really?
It was but partially filmed in the Namibian desert and New York, and then season 2 is going to be filmed all in California.
interesting.
Interesting.
I wonder why they made that choice. And then she comes across a house, as you do when you're traversing the wasteland.
I
And
thought the house was so well realized.
the
This is
house is so well realized. She walks into sort of a dining room. Um, and, you know, scattered throughout the room, we see various items that you'd typically see while you're running through a house: bottles, dinnerware on a hutch, the floral
um
painting on the wall. I don't know if you noticed that as well.
one of the things that we persistently praise in Bethesda video games is that environmental storytelling, where
Yeah.
you don't have to have a holotape or something to know exactly what went on there. You can look at the positioning of skeletons, the positioning of items, and you know exactly what happened. And this scene in the dining room is one of those scenes.
It is. You're right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's interesting. I like how they chose to sort of mute the music here and just make it a silent
Mhm.
moment. I thought it was also really respectful to like this family was in their last moments kind of thing,
Mhm.
when they decided that they had no way out and they needed to devise a way out. She picks up a bottle off the table, it's a Vault-Tec bottle that says Vault-Tec Plan B Eco Savings Poison. So the family took cyanide, right?
Mhm.
Or some sort of poison. Um, and yeah, she just has this like
She
shock.
realizes what happened and then
She
she's horrified.
she realizes what happened to the family, but I think this is also where she makes the first connection where Vault-Tec might not actually be as good as she thought it
Yes,
was, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's good. Um, and then she's like, she sets up a fire. You know, she's gonna have her little camp. She's gonna sleep for the night. She puts her Pip-Boy down, and then she wakes up a little bit later, and there's dog meat is staring at her in the face, and she's startled. Obviously, it's kind of growling at her, and then it jumps over her and grabs a rad roach, and basically saves her from the rad roach. And then we see Wilzig creepily sitting in the chair across as she sort of panders back away from the dog. He's sitting in the chair across on the other side of the fire and startles her. And he's like, "You shouldn't be out here.
Mhm.
What are you doing, Vault Girl?"
And his speech patterns are so creepy, right? Like, this is really the first time we've heard him speak.
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually, it is. You're right.
he gives me like the vibe he's putting off right now is like old Greg, like the old YouTube video of you ever drink a Bailey out of a shoe, like that, like super creeptacular dude that shouldn't be there. And I'm
Mhm.
like, at first I was like, did he inject the magic into him? That's what I thought the first time that I watched this. I was like, oh, the injectable, it made him creepy. It made him like, hello, it's me, the ghost of your past, here to kill you
Hello.
once again.
Um,
Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, at this point, I mean, when I was watching it for the first time, I was thinking to myself, what is that thing that he put in his neck? You know? Um, and like, does he have some sort of superpower? Like, what is it that he, right? Yeah.
It's funny to me that he's offering her very sensible advice, but it just feels sinister because of the way he delivers it.
Yes. Yeah.
He
And
reminds me of like the first NPC you meet out at the vault. Like he's just like, all right, I've got the tutorial messages for you.
Yes, he is the tutorial character. Oh my goodness.
that's hilarious. He does warn her about lighting a fire after dark. He warns her about being out in the open and recommends that she go back into the vault. She refuses because she's not going back without her dad. And then he says, "Well, you're gonna have to adapt," and asks her if she would want to, if she would want the same thing when she becomes a different animal altogether. And then he fades off into the night, and that's the end of the exchange between the two. And I thought it was really interesting.
It was very weird as well, just very weird.
Yeah. Then the next scene that we come into is the Brotherhood of Steel. And it is Knight Titus and Maximus in a vertibird, obviously being deployed through their mission in the wasteland.
Ba-ga-da-da, ba-ga-da-da,
Yeah.
ba-ga-da-da, da-ga-da-da-da-da-da.
I thought this was really the funniest part of this scene was when he's like, "Okay, I'm bored. Let's sit down. I want to shoot some stuff." And
Oh, so we're just gonna skip the part where he gives him his cod piece? We're just gonna skip right over that?
no,
Yeah,
I
man,
need
here's
you
my
to
FUPA
interrupt me
medal.
and tell
Please
me.
wash my FUPA medal for me. Thank you.
Ugh! This was the moment at which I knew I hated Knight Titus. Hated
Okay.
him.
Okay.
Hated him with everything that's in me. Ugh. Goodness.
Mhm.
Okay. Hate him
Okay.
so much.
You good now?
No, but we can move on.
Okay. Um, I thought it was really funny how
He's trying to make conversation. He's like, so yeah, see you have that heat resistant lining or whatever. Chucks his cod piece at him.
I
Who
love
does that?
I love how Maximus is just strapped to the front of this knight like a baby in one of those baby carriers, and then out the plane they go. Like, it's how hilarious is this? We don't see this in any Fallout game, right?
It's funny that they're rappelled down because honestly, this looks like something the Power Rangers would fight. You know, like it looks like corny enough. Like you used to when you play the games, you used to wear in the Power Army, be like, oh yeah, I love the opportunity to jump off a building and absolutely not feel any pain and
Yeah, and
Iron
this
Man
is
land. But in this
largely
one, they're like, here's the claw machine.
it seems largely based on Fallout 4 type aesthetic and stuff. So I what I was wanting was for him to just jump out of the vertebrate.
I love that I finally understand why there are those hook clasps on the front of the power armor. It's so that you can hook on your little scribe baby and just so
They
anyways.
should just have a little sign that says "Ride to me."
Yeah.
Oh, that's a different part of the internet.
And I mean, if you also look at
Oi,
the
oi.
scribe, if you look at the scribe's outfit as well, he's got the little rings and the clips for
Mm-hmm.
those handles on the Brotherhood of Steel
Oh,
armor too.
their parts match. That's nice.
Yeah, yeah. Anyways,
That's
um,
called sexual dimorphism.
Hmm.
so they set off into the desert. The scene quickly switches to Wilzig and Doggo, who come up against a cave entrance. He decides that he wants to take a little bit of a rest, and he takes his jacket off, switches his coat. So I don't know, maybe he just wants to get rid of his lab coat or something. And then he pulls out a can of cram, which I think is fantastic. Um, the dog goes into the cave and he comes out of the cave with a severed human hand, which is just so
Like you
perfect.
do.
Yeah, good boy. Um, and that's when Wilzig immediately realizes, oh, maybe he shouldn't be here right now. And you hear this growling coming from the cave, and that's
Mm-hmm.
the end of the scene. It goes back to Maximus and Knight Titus, um, who they draw the parallels on this because they're both coming up to the same cave. They're obviously tracking the target, right? And they come up to the same cave. Maximus has the intelligence to put two and two together and say, "Hey, look! I think that they were actually here. There's a can of food and this lab coat from this dude or whatever." Um, and that's when they hear the growling from the cave, and so they go into the cave. They see the bones. They're like, this is not a good situation. They're in the cave, and Knight Titus asks Maximus to go check out that area that has all these irradiated barrels. And Max
Mm-hmm.
is like, I can't. I don't have armor. And he's like, this is your duty. I'm ordering you to do this.
They said you earn the armor with acts of bravery, and this is an
Yes.
act of
And
bravery.
this is an act of bravery. And so he sort of starts to make his way over there, and then he turns around and he looks, and there's a giant Yao Guai standing behind Knight Titus, and he's like, "Oh shit, this is not good. This is really bad."
I really find Yao Guai to be one of the most terrifying enemies in the whole Fallout universe. I've always have, and I think that this was a well realized Yao Guai.
Oh yeah, yeah. I love that he bites into the assault rifle, and then the assault rifle breaks, and then they just get into this hand to hand punching match with a Yao Guai in
Mhm.
power armor, and I was like, "That's awesome." Um, kind of wish he had a power fist or something on. I mean, in a way he does,
You
but
can't equip a power fist with power armor. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
But this is
I
the
think you
first.
Yeah.
forget like how much this scene really is like. You forget how much Iron Man like power armor is. Where
Mm-hmm.
like for the most part, like they got a high DR on that. Like that's a pretty hefty thing.
I love that in this scene also the Yao Guai completely disregards Maximus. Like has no
Yeah, not a
idea,
threat at all.
not worried about him at all. Sees the power armor and is like, this is the guy. Meanwhile, Knight Titus is like screaming at him to shoot the Yao Guai. Shoot him! Shoot him! What are you doing? What are you waiting for? Just shoot him! Right? He shoots the Yao Guai. The Yao Guai dies.
Now, this
Um,
does sort of follow a theme from episode one of Maximus being deemed not a threat, of him being deemed just
hmm,
absolutely not a threat. And because that was the impression that everyone seems to have of him back at Brotherhood headquarters.
right,
And
right.
um, I did find it really interesting that Yao Guai are so tough, and he just caps him with like one shot from
And a
his little pistol
10 millimeter pistol, right?
right in the eyeball. Just immediately dropped him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he pressed X for the crit.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he had filled it
Mm-hmm.
up with the gauge and bats, and he was ready for that crit.
Mm. Knight Titus gets up, sort of sits up, and he's like, "Help me! Help me! Help me!" And this scene, I actually like screamed, "Yeah!" when he takes the helmet off and we see who's under the mask because it's Michael Rappaport. And if you don't know who Michael Rappaport is, he is a American actor who is known for a lot of roles. Um, what has he been in? I don't have his bio here. Uh,
He was in Justified, wasn't he? I mean, I know that he was another person that was in.
Um, yeah, he's like a comedian slash actor. He's been in Prison Break. He's been in Friends. He was a police officer in Friends. He's been in The Heat, Hitch, a lot of high profile movies. Um, The Sixth Day, Men of Honor, lots of movies. I'm surprised that his role is so minimal in this show.
Hmm.
Like it's just short lived, right? But naturally, he comes into the role with his Michael-y ways, dropping f bombs left and right, swearing like a sailor, and I think it's so good. I'm glad
I
that
He
agree.
he had a
he does
cameo in this.
not take the opportunity to motivate Maximus to help him, right?
No,
He's
not at
he's in
all.
this helpless situation. He needs his scribe to go fetch him a stim pack. And so what does he do? He tells him they're gonna hang him by his lungs
Hmm.
when they get back home. We're gonna hang you by your lungs because you're the worst squire ever.
Yeah.
I
Uh
think that I agree, and I think it's telling. This is like a great piece of lore, I think, that they've included in the show because like he has a really thick Boston accent when he's talking to Maximus. And so this to me, it's like, okay, well, this is obviously one of the knights from the Pridwen that came in, flew in, and this is what's become of like the one of the main side quests of Fallout 4 is like Paladin Dance. Can he come to terms with what the Brotherhood has become? Well, guess what? The Brotherhood now is full of guys that are like Knight Titus.
Night
Bros.
Titus.
They're full of
Yeah.
bros. I do like that. He's like, give me a stim pack. Like you're sitting there like a dope, wasting my time. What are you doing? And he's genuinely looking for a stim pack in this moment. But when he tells him that they're gonna string him up by his lungs, that's when something clicks in Max, right? Like he's got the stim pack in his hand, and he's like, do I really want to give this to you?
Hmm.
And I didn't think that he was capable of this, but then again, he's outside of a vault, he's lived in the wasteland.
So now this moment really brought me back very strongly to the first episode. And what was the other character? His only friend's name, was
Dane.
it Dane?
Yeah.
Dane.
And it made me wonder if maybe he was capable of being the one to sabotage Dane.
I think Maximus is smarter than the show makes him out to seem.
I think Maximus is an absolute idiot. I hate him.
I think that he has a certain level of can do attitude and ability to think on his feet, that is going to make him a key part of whatever the Brotherhood's going to become.
I think Maximus gets special dialogue options for having an intelligence less than 2.
I mean, you could be right there, Shalene.
I think he's got
Everybody
his
hates on him, but
survivalist skill. I think is
yeah,
pretty high.
yeah,
Because he's an opportunist, but he can look at a situation. He's very opposite from Lucy because Lucy wants
Yes.
to see the best in everything,
hmm
and he can look at a situation and say, "All right, this is turning sour, so we got to pivot."
Mhm.
it's actually really interesting that you should say that because Lucy's brought up in this meritocracy in the Vault 33 where they pride themselves on doing the right thing, but what we see with Maximus's character is that he actually prides himself on doing the right thing, or he tries to do the right. He believes in doing the right thing.
Mhm.
And I think part of that actually harpers back to, we see this flashback, I think, in a moment here of when he was a kid.
Mhm.
Uh,
And he's rescued by a Brotherhood of Steel.
Yes. And like he has it in his mind that the Brotherhood of Steel are supposed to do good things for people, not to tell me that I'm going to be strung up by my lungs or send me into a
Right.
radioactive environment sort of thing. And like this is his hero, right?
Mhm.
Um and so he tells Knight Titus, you don't deserve your armor.
So
Yeah, because
earlier, Dave, you mentioned Boba Fett appearing in the show, and just this flashback scene. Every time it comes up, it makes me think of the Mandalorian and the flashback scene in that show.
yeah, I think that this has a lot of like similarities to that of like identifying like why like what these people are. And it's the same in the
Mhm.
Mandalorian. Like that's the reason he wears the armor is because
That's why
he's
he
like,
is who
oh
he
well,
is.
they're so great. The Mandalorians are so great. He's looking at the Brotherhood of Steel here thinking, these guys are the saviors and these are the true like heroes. But he gets to
Yeah.
spend time with one of the true heroes, and he's like, "Wash my jock strap, and I'm gonna run
Yeah.
away from a bear." Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, and Max says, it is a knight's duty to better this fallen world. You don't deserve this armor. And then we don't actually see him kill Knight Titus, but we do know that he doesn't give Knight Titus the stim pack. And the outcome is he gets the power armor, right?
Mhm.
Um so that's sort of the end of the scene. And the end of Michael Rappaport, sadly. And then we move into a new scene with Lucy. And she's still making her way across the wasteland, but she comes up against this wasteland hillbilly who is hammering on the side of a water purifier wearing a diaper. Um, and I
This
just,
poor guy.
it's so funny, Shalene.
Like, this is who we would actually be if we survived into the apocalypse. We all think we would be like Brotherhood of
Possibly
Steel guy, but no, we would be water purifier guy trying to load sand into the purifier,
sand into the purifier. Yeah, yeah.
wearing our
She's,
diaper.
Lucy comes up. She's like, "Excuse me, I'm kind of lost. Can you help me?" And he's like, "Oh." He sees an opportunity, of course, but I don't know, he seems pretty harmless. At first, I was like, I don't know about this guy. Like, run away, run away. She's holding out her little syringer.
Mhm.
Um,
The way he stands and everything is just.
it's so good. Yeah. I love that we see a lot of these items in the yard that you would see, like the tato bushes with the
Mhm.
lattices, the three stakes and stuff. I think there's like a moot fruit bush in the back there as well. Um, and yeah, he's like, "Oh, I just keep trying to put sand in this water purifier, and all I get is sand." And she's like, "Well, have you tried water?" And he's like, "You have water?" And she's like, "Yeah, would you like some?" She gives him the bottle, and he drinks the whole thing. Oh yeah, yeah,
it's good. It's good. It reminds me of like, NPCs that you come across when you're on a main
Mhm.
quest and be like, "Can you point me in the way of Diamond City?" And they're like, "I ate my cousin yesterday." And you're like, "That's nice. All
yeah,
right,
yeah. He tells her to
bye."
go to Philly, Philly. It's just over the hill over that way where his dad died, and both his brothers died, and his aunt also died there once too. So, uh, yeah,
And
this,
he's never been. It's much too dangerous. He's never been
yes.
just over that hill.
That's all we know of this guy, but I have a feeling that he's going to come back again.
Well, he does offer to marry her. So there is that. That's
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
she did get a wedding proposal today. So
Yes. Yes. He could
the
use a
day's not a
family.
total loss.
Yeah.
Hey,
He says,
not a
I'm very
cousin.
sick. I'm very sick. Dying, you'll probably won't have to put up with me long.
The scene quickly switches back to Maximus. He's in the knight Under Armor, and he's getting into the power armor. The scene is actually, I think, a lot of fun, because it is capturing kind of the experience we all have when we first get in that power armor. I
Yes.
think, right? What are your
Hmm.
thoughts, Shalene?
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. The joy of being a walking tank is very well epitomized here.
Yeah, yeah,
I think
and
it's a classic move in the games to trick a Brotherhood of Steel Knight out of their power armor by like removing their fusion core and then immediately getting into their power armor. Like pickpocketing the fusion core off of Brotherhood of Steel Knight and then like just like walking away with their armor is like classic.
yeah, yeah.
Classic.
Yeah, I think it's a great scene where he's like just sort of playing around, checking out the power armor, throws a rock, it like goes so far away, breaks down a wall. He just feels totally for invincible for like the first time in his life ever. And I
This
think he
this
makes that
scene makes me
connection.
want it makes me want an Iron Man movie with not Robert Downey Jr., but like more of like a person that just absolutely doesn't understand and they just like go into the Iron Man suit and they're like, what is all this? And they're like
Yeah,
Inspector
yeah,
Gadget without knowing what any of the gadgets are.
yeah.
Oh, that sounds brilliant.
And we see
Like, what if
like
it was like Mr. Bean?
Yes. 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 Hired.
Oh man, I kind of wish Rowan Atkinson was in the power armor when he pulled that helmet off. Wouldn't that be great? Um, Bean. Uh, so Betty Hutton, it's a man, plays when he hops into the power armor and he's checking out, which I think is just the perfect choice of song for that because, for the first time he feels invincible. Then he hears some screaming and he looks around the corner of a building and a man is being
Yeah.
attacked.
This is his moment. His
This
moment to
is
be the big hero.
his moment for the first time as a knight to do the right thing. And he walks up, he sees this guy strangling this guy, grabs him by the hair, and these two actors are awesome. So the guy being strangled is John Daly. If you don't know John Daly, he is an American voice actor who voiced the Galaxy News announcer in a special live report from Galaxy News promotional video for the Fallout television series. He's also done other contributions as well, but in the Fallout TV show, he plays this role of what we will find out later on in the episode, a snake oil salesman. And then Jake Garber is the chicken guy. I think he doesn't have too much of a prominent role in the show, but he's just this guy living in the wasteland. He's got chickens, and yeah. It sort of sums.
Maximus is just so happy that he saved this guy.
Yes, he is so happy he saved this guy. The guy runs away, and the chicken guy's tells him that he was screwing his chickens. And Maximus is like, "Oh, I thought I was doing a good thing."
This is the first seed because the Brotherhood in this show, and especially in the last episode, it has gone even farther into we are the holy knights that will protect the world, and we are looking for our lost relics, the pre-war relics that we will hoard. And so he has this idea of knight in shining armor, but in this encounter he learns that shit's useless.
Mhm.
In this world, it's not gonna
Everybody's
work.
terrible. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of the end of this scene with the chickens. I guess I understand its purpose because it's trying to establish his change in character, I guess. He's still super green with his power armor. He says, "Carry on, citizen," and he puts his arm up and the flames start shooting out.
Can we also talk about how cool it looks with the bear claws scratching across the Brotherhood of Steel logo?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I love that.
If that feels like a great way, when you have Maximus walking around power armored with the other Brotherhood of Steel, it's that's Maximus because he's got his Yagwai.
Yeah, and
claws.
we don't know for sure yet. But I mean that could also possibly be foreshadowing, right? We don't know.
Could be.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a bear under there.
Then we see Lucy. She's making her way into Philly, and she's following the signs. Apparently, it's just over the hill. She gets to Philly, and she's kind of walking through Philly. People are kind of looking around, looking at her weird, laughing at her like, "Oh, look at that vault dweller."
Yeah. Do you know why they call it Philly?
No. Can you tell us?
It's a landfill.
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This scene is so good. The set that they've done is just fantastic. How much money did they put into this whole scene?
I mean, not that much because all of the props are garbage, literal
right.
garbage.
It's true. Yeah.
Well, still,
but the
to make
manpower-
garbage TV worthy.
Yes, the manpower that went into, shaving the nose off the front of that plane or, repainting it to make it look rustic or something. She walks in to Philly through sort of like a market. We see a sign on the right that says dog meat, which I thought was clever. And she's walking through. Somebody offers her iguana on a stick, which I think is pretty cool as well. And yeah, I don't know who those guys are. Possibly like raiders or something, but.
So I did read a fun fact about props. That you all may already know this, but Bethesda actually sent over the 3D models for a lot of the props in the games, and then the Kilter Films went and 3D printed them and then just like stuck them into the the show, which
Cool.
I think is super smart.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Hopefully they recycled all that plastic. And then we see this scene, which is like it's this when she's out of the market. She walks through these tunnels to go to the downtown area of Philly, and it's Megaton. It's Megaton. Did you not have Megaton vibes? I thought it
Big
was
Megaton vibes.
so good. Yeah. And yeah, there's a sign that says dead end. I'm not sure if that has any significance. We see a Nuka-Cola neon sign. And she's kind of got this elation, like, I made it. I'm here. I'm not dead yet. Like, this is great. Now I can hopefully find my dad. And we see that Goggins, the ghoul, is also there, sitting in a chair, sort of waiting, looking around. And then she goes and she sees a shop. Oh, there's also the Brahmin.
Okay,
We
the
see a Brahmin
Brahmin
for the
has
first
got
time.
way too much fur on it, right? Way too much fur.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. She spots a Pip-Boy in a shop window. And then she's like, oh, maybe I'll try there, Vault Tech, right? She goes in the shop and she's like, hey, I noticed you have some Vault Tech stuff. Like, so I obviously can assume that you're like a criminal or that you sell to criminals. And I'm like, that's a terrible way to start a conversation, but you're from a vault. You don't know any better. This shop was awesome though. We see a lot of props that we've seen in the game. On the display case, you see a Giddy Up Buttercup. You see the bowling pins, boxes of bobby pins, a Mentat jar. The hula hoop girl is sitting there as well. Pip-Boy's in the window, toolboxes. Just this is like the concentrated junk that we would all pick up all in one scene. And I actually had to pause it when I was watching it for the first time because I wanted to see everything, right? Yeah. So
This feels like somebody in 76's camp. Like this feels like
Oh,
right?
it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we see for the first time Dale Dickey, who is a fantastic American actress. She's worked theater, film, and television for quite some time. She's been on Broadway in the late 80s, but she's been in so many shows and movies, television, and as well. She has such an extensive resume. But I love that they chose her for this role. She fits it so well. Lucy comes up. She's like, I'm looking for my dad. Can you help me? And she's like, I don't want to have anything to do with you. She's like, holy crap, you're like actually a real vault dweller.
So hostile.
Right? And she unleashes this like, I don't know, this wheezing cackle that is just unforgettable. Like it was so good. And then she sort of tells Lucy, like, you've got nice hair, nice teeth. You still have all 10 fingers. So good for you, like get the heck out of here while you can, because they're going to eat you alive if you don't, sort of thing. And I thought it was really funny that Lucy responded by trying to sympathize. But in her like vaulty, naive way, she's like, look, it can be easy. It can't be easy up here with all these murders and, the dirt. And I was like, oh, you're so cute.
yeah, it's kind of like the funny elitist person coming down to the poor neighborhood and be like, look, honey, it's the pores.
Yeah, holding a handkerchief up to their face because of the smell.
Have a confection, young man.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think this is a bit more confirmatory of the exchange between the two when she tells Lucy about the vaults, that the vaults were nothing more than a thing for rich people, a hole for rich people to hide in while the rest of the world burned, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I love Majun and Barb. And she's like, Barb, get up here. It's Vault Dweller.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Lucy doesn't really get it. Like she doesn't take the hint that she should be leaving, right? And so Ma June pulls the rifle and puts it on the counter as sort of like a show of force to say, like, get the hell out of here, right?
Mhm.
And then we see Wilzig and the dog coming into the scene. They're making their way into downtown Philly, and he actually runs into Lucy again as well, where he again warns her, like, what are you doing here? Like, I thought you were unsafe out there. You're even more unsafe in here. Like, you need to go.
Mhm.
um,
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a dumb question. How did you determine that the target's name was Wilzig? Because I didn't realize he had a name.
I didn't know until I looked in the wiki
Okay.
when I was prepping
Okay.
for this episode. Yeah.
Thank you.
So his name is Siggy Wilzig. But I think Walton Goggins or the Ghoul refers to him in this scene as Wilzig. But you do miss it because it's very quick. Yeah. Anyways, he also in this interaction with Lucy, he shares direct knowledge about Vault 33, which I thought was interesting. Like, he knew exactly everything about Vault 33, as if he was like part of the experiments or the planning, or, you know, in some way. And she was kind of perplexed, you know. She's like, how do you know all of this about me? She was trying to place who this person was, right?
It was weird.
Yeah, it was a bit weird.
I think it's a good, it's kind of like the beginning of a good theory of how connected is the Enclave to Vault Tech. Like, we kind of know that this is its own thing. Like, how connected are they? If he knows all this information,
Yeah.
if he's able to go back and recount all this off the top of his head, that he could do that about any of the vaults, not just her vault. He would know
Right.
them all. So why does he know that? What's going
Does
on
it have
there?
some
You
sort of
know,
connection with the grain of rice and that he put into his neck? Like, I don't know.
could be. It might have a little name written on him, like Haley, like you would get at the gift shop. You know, could be something.
The half of the Bible is written on one
Yes,
side.
half of the Bible.
Yeah.
My favorite psalm.
Then Ma June comes out of the store and she's like, let's get you inside, because she was obviously expecting Wilzig. And that's when we see Goggins gets up and he's like, hey, Wilzig. Because he knows that he's the target. And that's
Right.
when all hell breaks loose, right? So Goggins blows the guy's leg off, just like with no remorse, you know, just another day for him. He like didn't even care. And then the shooting starts, and this gun that he had, I was like, man, what is this gun? It's the sawed-off. Is it a sawed-off shotgun? I think.
It is, yeah.
And I think he's got explosive ammo or something in it, but it's
And
got it's
plainly, it's the bloody mess perk, I think, that's really.
probably. And when he
He's got a
shoots, it's kind of like
few-
thum, you know.
He's got a few perks. I think he's rocking with this. I think he's definitely got bloody mess. Probably a gun fu. Maybe like the Grim Reaper one. He's like rocking it. He's showing off his full. Like, he's probably a level 50 at this point. He's got all the perk cards and he's just like swapping them out.
Yeah. I definitely thought things escalated quickly here.
Me too, right?
It just felt like we went from I thought it was going to be a longer time before our characters were all brought together, before, you know, anything of this magnitude happened. I felt like there was going to be more world building, but no, we just got thrown right into it.
Yeah, yeah. And the Ghoul says something here. He says a bounty came in through all 6 agencies. What are the 6 agencies? Enclave, Brotherhood of Steel, NCR.
I felt like he was referring to in particular bounty hunting agencies, like specialized.
Yeah.
Not factions.
Perhaps, yeah. Anyways, I thought that was kind of an interesting remark. It was so cute, though. Lucy comes out, and she's like, she tries to like de-escalate the situation. She's like, look, you know, let's just all go to the lobby and get ourselves some snacks, right? Like, let's just calm down for a minute. Um, and um, yeah, it did not go well, I think. That's when things got even more heated, and he goes to take a shot, I think, at Lucy, and the dog comes in and attacks him,
Hmm.
right? And I hate this part because he hurts the dog. He stabs
Yes.
the dog whimpers. I hate that part. Now I hate Goggins. I can never recover from watching this show. Like, I'm done. I want to walk
Hmm.
away from it, right? And yeah. And then Maximus comes into the scene in his power armor. And now they're fighting against each other. Uh, as Lucy is trying to figure out her way through it. Actually, that's when we see Lucy and Maximus see each other for the first time, right?
Hmm.
Because he dives into the storefront with her in his arms in the power armor and then opens his mask and says, "Hi." She's like,
I think it's
"Hi."
also very important that Ma June just involves the whole town by uh, offering a bounty for whoever kills the ghoul.
It's true. Yes. Yeah. Um I
In
actually
general,
really
I thought ghouls would be more common in Philly. So like naming calling somebody the ghoul, like I feel like Philly seems like a place where like a bunch of rapscallions are. I figured that it'd be a little more, we wouldn't
well,
just be
it's
calling
like
somebody the ghoul.
the Shalene, the clout that comes with that statement. There's millions of Shaleens in the world.
I'm just never going to get to live that one down, am I?
No, never.
Yeah.
But at first, you're right, Dave, because I was thinking to myself, like, at first I was kind of like, why do they just call him the ghoul? Like, they don't give him a name. It just seems so superfluous. Like, he's such a big part of the show. He's such a big character. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm curious if that's tied to his character and like throughout the show, like, not really spoilers or anything, but it's like reconciling with his own past. Like clearly,
Hmm.
that's going to be the character arc once he comes in here. Like
Hmm.
he's
Yeah.
reconciling with his past, and so like what part of him is the ghoul and what part of him is Howard.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah. So they
Gosh, I
duke it
just love
out.
that they named him Howard. It's hilarious.
They duke it out. Lucy and Ma June help Wilzig into the shop. Barb's in there. She's just chilling back, sucking on a cigar, and she's like, "I'm trying to eat my beans," which I thought was just so good. It was probably pork and beans, right?
Hmm.
And
She's so great.
they throw him up on this table, and she's like, "Barb, get the foot." And I'm like, "What? What is going on here?" Barb goes into the other room. She comes back with a box, and Ma June grabs this like metal foot that has like teeth on it that is like, a
Ooh,
portable
this
meat
was rough.
grinder.
This was rough.
Oh my God.
It
They
is the
juiced him.
most.
They juiced him.
It's the most Fallout prop I think that like Fallout thing that they introduced. Like this is
Hmm.
original to the show. They introduce it, and I am like, this is the most Fallout stuff because it's like technologically advanced, incredibly painful and superfluous, and really helps a little bit, but not
Only
all
a
that
little bit.
much.
Yeah. You can
Hmm.
walk, but it's going to be very painful and you're going to
At
die
what
anyways.
cost?
So,
Hmm.
yeah. And Lucy is just like, she doesn't even know what to think of this, right? Like she's just having a whole moment, um just totally exposed to these elements that
Terrible.
she's so innocent, right? And then they start bargaining. um Ma June and Lucy start bargaining over Moldaver. You can take him. Maybe you can. You're a vault dweller, so this is probably not going to go well. And I don't have a lot of confidence in you, but
Hmm.
I don't have any other choice. And you got to sneak out the back door, sort of thing.
Hmm.
And I love how Lucy says, like, I mean, what does Moldaver want with you? He steals dads, or
Yes.
she steals dads. I'm like, that's so cute, right? Uh, yeah.
So good.
Meanwhile, outside, the ghoul and Maximus are still fighting, and he gets his foot caught in a plank, I think. a plank in the floor right here. And the ghoul disables part of his power armor that like causes it to malfunction, so he can no longer walk, he can no longer fight. And basically Maximus ends up flying off into another part of Philly, while Lucy and guy with the 1 foot are escaping.
And this is why power armor training is important.
Yes,
That's true.
Yes.
That's true. He illegally put that armor on without
Mhm.
talking to Sarah Lyons first, and that's a real shame.
And I like this scene when they're walking through the market, because we see the snake oil salesman again. He's back. He's in Philly now, and he's doing his job selling whatever elixir that you need for whatever problem that you have.
It will grow back your foot.
Yes, it'll grow back your foot. You'll be fine. Yeah, I just thought that was a little bit of comic relief. John Daly is the perfect person for that role. And then the ghoul rekindles himself here, for me anyways, in my book, as they go back to like sort of the end of the fight scene. Maximus has shot off into the sky, and the dog's here and the dog's hurt. And I'm like, oh no, is the dog dead? What's going to happen? Is he going to help the dog? I'm worried. And he heals the dog. I love the ghoul again. Everything is right with the world. I'm no longer mad, and I still want to keep watching the show.
When this happened, I definitely imagined that meme with the Fallout 4 font. Like everyone liked that.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. So he gives CX404 a stim pack. This dog is now his friend. They are venturing out in the wasteland together. This is the perfect union that I wanted to happen on this show. I'm happy. Everything is right, right?
But he only did it though so that he could help him track down.
Yes, because the dog knows
target.
where his owner is, right? Yeah.
But did he?
What do you mean?
I mean,
But did he? Because
we'll
he's
never
petting
know.
that dog. He's in
He
there.
is petting the dog.
He's petting that dog.
Yeah, it's true.
It's kind of like the dad that's like, we're not getting a dog. We're not getting a dog. We're not going to do it. We're not getting the dog. And the moment the dog gets at the house,
that's a good observation, because up until now, the ghoul has been this destroyed person in the show, and we're only in the 2nd episode. But we know that he's he survived the nuclear blasts. He's turned into a ghoul, and we don't really know anything about the history of his 219 years in the wasteland. But you do see a bit of a spark of humanity left in him with the dog here. Yeah, that's a good observation. And then the final scene for the episode is Lucy and Wilzig. They're walking through the desert. He's clunking along with this giant metal foot that's chomped onto his leg, and they sort of stop at this satellite that is. It says CCCP on the side. What does that stand for, Shalene? Do we know?
No idea.
I believe
Something
that
Communist
stands for-
Party, right?
yeah. I think it's a Communist Party symbol.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's basically like, this is going to have to do. I can't go any further, because Lucy's like, oh, we're just 3 miles that way, but he can't fast travel because he's over encumbered, because he's got this giant metal foot on his leg. So they sit down, and she's like, well, no, I mean, we got to keep going. He's like, no, we can't. I took a cyanide pill. And what, you have something to say, Dave?
I just realized what this is. This is a satellite. This is a Chinese.
Yes.
Yes, it's a
Communist
spy satellite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry.
And he says, I took a cyanide pill. He holds up the bottle. It's Vault-Tec Plan B. And he says, it's one of the most humane things Vault-Tec ever did. And he said, it tastes like banana.
I loved that line.
Right? And he asks her to bring him to Moldaver. And he says, just my head. And she's like, what? Like, really? And he pulls out the Ripper out of his bag. It is a chainsaw sword. It's the classic that we've seen, I think, in Fallout 4, right?
It's in all the Fallout games.
All the Fallouts.
It's in all of them.
And that's sort of like the closing out of this episode. It's Lucy. She's holding this Ripper, and she's like, okie dokie. and she's just gonna chop his head off. And the ink
This was the
spots,
moment where I was completely on board with Lucy because that just so embodies that Fallout player character situation of like, all right, I guess I'm doing this.
yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. And
Yeah, sure. I'll pick up the robot head from the place and take it back to the bar. I guess I'll do that. It'll
Mhm.
talk to me the whole time I do it, but yeah, sure.
Mhm.
that would be a great quest, actually. A stupid, annoying robot head just talking to you all the time.
Well,
That
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 is a
is a
quest.
It
quest.
is? Oh, I don't
Yeah, in
remember that.
76. Yeah, it's the
Mhm.
Wastelanders update. You give it to the
Oh,
old.
You
see,
may
I
not have
haven't done
done this
that.
Yeah,
one yet.
Haven't done it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry.
there you go. Do it. It's in there. Your dreams can't come true in Fallout 76. This message is brought to you by Todd Howard.
Yeah. So, anyways, the show closes out with that. Ink spots are playing "I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire," and that's sort of where we're at with episode 2. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So overall, what do you think of episode 2?
I think this established all the three main characters, and it gave each of them a semblance of everything that they had previously thought or everything that they had decided may not be the full story.
Hmm.
Lucy with learning about Vault Tech and what's going on with that. Maximus with Knightitis and how it's like, well, this guy's kind of a D-bag, not a
Hmm.
knight at all. And even the ghoul with the dog of like slightly, being like, oh, I kind of can nurture this thing a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it starts to set the characters back on a good path
Yeah.
or
Hmm.
a progressive path.
I just want to add one final thing. We see this shot, this panorama of the wasteland. There's like a donut shop on the left, but off in the distance, is this supposed to be Shady Sands?
Yeah, this would be the Shady Sands, yeah.
I
Right?
think
Because
so.
that's the
Yeah.
next city they go to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Locations in this show are not, I don't think are 100%, which is fine because, in the
Video
games they're not
games. Hmm.
100%.
Well, and
But
that's the thing. Like, I love that they've sort of somehow incorporated fast traveling because in one scene, they'll be like in the East Coast. And then in the next scene, the next day, they're walking in the California desert. And it's like, wow, you really made good time. Like, they're not even
yeah,
tired.
I
All they
think,
had was some Blamco mac and cheese, right?
and it's funny to think about there's two locations in the show. There's that are real life that you see. In the first episode, you see Santa Monica Pier,
Hmm.
and in the last episode, you see the observatory,
Yeah.
which in real life are like very, very
Very
close
close
together,
together.
like
Yeah.
just up the hill in LA.
Yeah.
There it is. So
Yeah.
like that kind of stuff is funny to me.
Yeah.
But it's all.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
could go on and on about how the West Virginia map doesn't line up in Fallout 76,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I guess we'll kind of see with other seasons, but I was kind of hoping to see like the I-10 maybe, because like that is the major artery that goes through California. It's such a huge part of California, right?
right.
And like that's a big part of the Fallout 3 when you walk down the freeway, and you see these things. We don't really see we don't see that really all that much. It's just
Hmm.
coast and desert and sand. Um, but anyways, I still think they did
Yeah.
a fantastic job with all of the sets. And
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah, it's
I
fantastic.
really liked this episode. I thought it was a great episode. And I was so taken aback by how explosively the three main characters are brought together. I did not expect that one bit. And I thought it was really neat.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm glad they didn't like. That's a phrase I like to use. I'm glad they didn't like pussyfoot around with this. Like they weren't like,
Mhm.
oh, we're Game of Thrones in it. We're like, oh, you're off in the far continent and I'm over here.
yeah,
And so like the storylines feel separate, but they're not separated. Like
Mhm.
everybody's kind of joining up back together. Like everybody's on a similar path and are just kind of like intertwining each other, which I really like.
Same.
yeah, yeah. Ah, it's a good show. I'm excited for episode 3. We will be talking about that in 2 weeks' time. Although I think I'm traveling, right?
I think you are. Yeah. We'll
Yeah.
have to
So we
work
may,
around that.
yeah, we'll put out a date once we know more. Does anybody have any gameplay? Do we want to talk about some gameplay?
Uh,
Perhaps?
I have been playing a bit of Fallout 76. I I've been doing the homework mostly, just logging in, doing that homework. I've come out of score retirement. Um, and I've had a lot of fun playing with you, Vendor. That's been like one of the highlights for me is that you're back around. So I'm getting to hang out with you.
Yes.
And excuse me. But yeah, I did think it was really funny the other day. I have this persistent issue, Dave, with my computer. It's
Hmm.
just been blue screening on the regular anytime that I play a video game.
Mm.
And a couple days ago, we were all doing the alien event, and there were several of us in there. It was myself and Archin, and Vendor and Kern Jess and Hobbitbot. And we were all doing the alien event together, and all of them crashed. They all
Yeah.
crashed,
Yeah.
but
Me
not
and
me.
me and Jess and Hobbit. I think Archin's computer didn't crash, right?
His didn't crash, no.
But
We think it was
all
because you
three,
guys were all on the same team.
yeah, all three of our games just turfed. That
So
was the end
funny.
of it.
Hmm.
And it was
Yeah.
it was like right around the same time that you were saying, "Well, I'm almost at that hour mark where my computer usually
Hmm.
blue screens."
Hmm.
That's funny.
And then we were all like, "Huh, okay." Yeah, the
And I
alien event
actually
was
got to
fun.
quit on my own terms that day. That was fun.
Oh, that's great. I
I like that.
I've enjoyed playing some Fallout 76 with you and everyone else as well. Um, and Archin had hopped on to, I think he just hopped on for the purpose of beefing up my character.
Yes, he popped
Um,
on to help you guys out with that daily op.
he modded all of my weapons. I've got all these awesome legendary weapons now, and I've got really good armor. I now can jump. I've got the marsupial mutation as well as the speed demon mutation, and I
Hmm.
have level 2 starch genes, so I'm good now. I leveled up to level 80. But it's just so
Yeah,
funny.
it's been a good time.
I still feel like I'm being Sherpa'd around when you're playing with two characters that are like level 460 and level 660. But yeah. What about you, Dave? What have you been
I,
playing?
so I've been playing Fallout 3, which I don't think I have like gone back. I've played New Vegas a bunch, many times because it's just there's so many different characters, so many different builds. Fallout 3 is a little more bare bones, I think, in builds, which is what I'm like
Hmm.
interested in when I'm like working around a character.
Yeah.
The quest outcomes are generally the same, but I hadn't played it in many years, and so that's been fun to go back to, of just like getting into that world. I think I remember the Republic of Dave, but I didn't remember that you actually can influence the election of
Yes,
the
that's one of
Republic of
my
Dave.
favorite quests.
And so like going around and talking to everybody, you can just like talk people up and be like, Bob, you should really run for it. Well, I have big ideas about what the Republic of Bob would be. And then my favorite is like you can pickpocket the box once he goes to like count the votes, and you can just
Hmm.
take all the Dave votes out of there and put in whoever you want, and he'll
Right?
count them, and he'd be like, "Oh, this sucks. I'm going back to like some other city." It's
Yeah.
he just like fucks off somewhere. And
You
I
can
followed him.
actually find him. Yeah.
Yeah, I followed him, and he ends up getting just like absolutely destroyed by some death claws.
Hmm.
The other thing I had forgotten, like another detail about 3 in a quest, was I remember the girl. I forgot she's in 4 and 3, the Nuka Cola girl, who's like, "Oh, give me the Nuka Cola
Oh
quantums,
yeah.
and I will do
Sierra
whatever."
Petrovna.
Exactly. Um, but I had forgotten that she has this like creepy neighbor that
Ron, I think.
yeah
Oh
that lives
yeah.
beside her. I had completely forgotten she has this like absolutely creepy neighbor who's like, "What are you doing talking to my girl?" And you're like, I'm playing a girl character. I had a Black Widow on, so I had some unique dialogue options. It was like, "I didn't know that she was your girl," and he's like, "Well, yeah, you wouldn't. She is. I do all the stuff for her, so you should get me those Nicole Quantums, and when you get those to me, I can just give them to her, and I'll just pay you the same." And you you're like, "Oh, well, I'm not gonna do that." And he's like, "Well, you need to. It's the only way I'm gonna get with her." And one of the Black Widow options that I saw in there was like, essentially can suggest to this guy. It's like, okay, how about this? If you go get me Nuka Cola Quantums, we can have a threesome.
I've done that option before.
And he's like,
He
oh
freaks
shit,
out.
I'm gonna go do it. I'm gonna go do it. I'm gonna get him. I'll see you guys later. And just like start to run it. I just forgotten about these little details in that game of just like like I remember like, oh yeah, Republic Day, but like the influences, the
So
stuff with
good.
Sierra.
Right.
It's just some of those quests and some of the like those initial like wasteland juxtapositions. I feel like that Fallout 3 really did those well of like
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
juxtaposing various I think they got the characters right. When it comes to a lot of the quests and stuff. So
Mhm.
that's been fun to do. I'm using the Abraham Lincoln's rifle, which absolutely just obliterates everything.
Such
Which
a
is
good rifle.
my Lincoln repeater, I think it was called. But yeah,
Mhm.
that's my gameplay.
I did
Right.
find an Easter egg in Fallout 76. It's a Skyrim Easter egg. The opening scene in Skyrim when they're in the wagon and you wake up in the wagon. I found the wagon and there's three guys in the wagon and their hands are tied.
That's
And
funny.
it's just like this carriage wagon. Yeah. And I was like, this is a Skyrim reference. I love it. So that was one of my highlights this week in the Fallout universe.
So good.
Anyways, let's hop into the weapon of the week.
No! Oh!
Shalene, what have you got?
The weapon of the week this week is the Ripper, as seen in that last scene of episode 2. The Ripper is a type of pre-war handheld chainsaw developed as a portable tool for both commercial and military use. It has featured in all of the Fallout games. Earlier models were powered by small energy cells, but later models were self-powered. And in the early Fallout games, it was marketed as the Ripper Vibroblade. And the weakness of this weapon was excessive energy consumption. The military Rippers in later Fallouts and Fallout 3 has a unique version called Jack the Ripper.
Oh, yeah.
Jack has a higher potential damage rate and does an extra 50% damage against limbs, in addition to having a higher critical rate. And Jack can be found in the Deathclaw Sanctuary after you've completed the Waters of Life quest. So that's our weapon of the week.
Great. Awesome. I thought that
Awesome.
was pretty fitting considering our episode ended with the Ripper. So good
Mhm.
choice. Do we have any mail? Have we got?
We did. We actually got an email this week.
Wow.
Yeah, to the email address.
Did you remember the password?
This email says it's from Derek, and Derek says, "I'm so glad you guys are back. I really want, if possible, Danny Trejo to be a really old Raoul in season 2." And
Yes.
he says that he tends to
Yes.
count the Nuka Break series as soft canon in the show universe, because he thinks that without Nuka Break being out in the world all these years, we would have never gotten a Fallout Prime series, even if the Nuka Break series had complications off screen. By the way, I hope you guys can cover the New Vegas days at the Pioneer Saloon in June. Anyway,
Oh.
we've talked about that in the past, I think. Yeah, where they have that get together. Anyway, great to have you guys back. Ironically, all the new fans seem to cosplay Vault Dwellers, but mostly all the old fans cosplay Wastelanders. That is pretty funny to think about. Yeah. But that was our email, and we also had a couple of entries in the mail stack. If you want to go over one or two of those.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, let me just. I'm scrolling, frantically scrolling. This one is from RTZ. Many of us, amongst hundreds of thousands of people, logged back into Fallout 76 after not touching it for years, and many things have changed. What are your tips for returning players? Seasons, currencies, legendary weapons, any tips help. And honestly, my main tip is to just try to be open-minded about it, honestly. Fallout 76 got such a bad reputation because of the rocky launch. And I think people just expect it to be bad. They go in expecting for the game to be bad. And it's fun, there's a lot there are issues with the game. I've talked about those ad nauseum, but it's a fun game. So just have an open mind and enjoy your time. Have fun. So what do you guys think?
Dave, you go ahead.
Um, Scrap everything. Scrap it all. Scrap, scrap, scrap. Constantly scrap. Be scrapping everything. Scrap your own finger if you can.
Bender, do you have any tips?
I don't know. I think as somebody who stepped away from Fallout 76 for a lot of the reasons that we had talked about in the past and hopping back into it, um, there's still some things like I the game is really hard for new players to establish a foothold because Fallout 76 is designed to be played with friends, I think, for the most part. A lot of the events are done together. The daily ops you really can't do by yourself. And if you're all really low level, I mean, obviously that's also going to be a bad time.
Mhm.
But there's still a lot about the game that you can play solo. And I would say that people should really try to spend time playing the game solo, but also make time to play it with friends too. And
I
I think
agree.
I've finally struck that balance because when I went into Fallout 76 the first time around, I played it solely with friends the whole time. And I never actually allowed myself to have some of that time to play the game solo. And be able to find the Skyrim Easter eggs and read all the computers and read all the notes because my team was always on the run, on to the next thing. Let's
Mhm.
do this event. I got to do this stuff, and I just wanted to hang back in the house and look through all the cupboards and pick up all the things, and then go back
Mhm.
to my base and scrap them. And so I played a different pace, right? Um, but yeah, so I've been doing a lot of the quests too. But I think, getting some of those legendary weapons and getting some help from higher level players in the game changed everything because I can actually go into some of the areas and do the quests that I want to do that I haven't been able to do because I'm
It
still
is
level
really important.
75. So
It's really important to pay attention to stats if you want to be successful in combat.
yeah, yeah. So
That's yeah.
yeah, so I mean, if you're hopping into Fallout 76 for the first time, having watched the show, Shalene's right. Go into it with an open mind. Know that you're going to die a lot. That's a Bethesda game,
Mhm.
especially at the start. But scrap everything and save everything. Fill up that stash box so that you can make ammo and fix your weapons and fix your armor and keep going. And yeah,
And we do not have time to go through all of the responses, but fellow listeners have left a ton of advice in the mail stack channel. So if you are someone who is jumping back into 76 after a time away, um, there's some great advice in there.
and
So
that's also where people can post other questions that they have that we can talk about on the show as well. So head on over to twitch.tv/we just love games and go to our about page where you can access the Discord link that'll bring you directly into the server, and the mail stack channel is where you can post some of those questions. You can also send us an email at info@wejustlovegames.com. Keep in mind, next week we will have an episode of GameStack Podcast. And then the next episode of TFS, we're not too sure what's going to happen because I'm going to be traveling for work. I have 2 conferences to go to, so there's going to be 3 Fridays, I think, where I'm going to be missing shows. Perhaps Rick and Shalene could do episode 3 by themselves if they wanted, but we haven't talked about that yet. So we'll keep you guys informed. Dave, any shout outs on your end before we close out?
Shout outs. If you want to find me, um, I'm actually starting a newsletter. If you go to linktree/radrolls, that's linktr.ee/radrolls. I've decided that social media is like absolutely one of the most abysmal things that you could possibly do with your life right now. So I have decided that I'm going to take it on back, and I'm doing a monthly newsletter, a Fallout goodness, tabletop goodness, talking about, you know, uh, characters and worlds within Fallout. talking about some of the tabletop stuff I'm doing. I'm making some props right now. I've got like this up here. Where's my finger? There it is. This is great audio content. This blue thing right here, that's a vault door I'm making actually,
Cool.
because my screen, most like game masters have a screen. I'm making one for a con, and it's a vault door. And so I've went ahead and cut everything out. I just need to paint it and glue it all together.
Cool.
Very, very cool.
Did you make it
So
with
yeah,
did you make it with a 3D printer?
no, I made it with. This is a bag of styrofoam pieces that I cut with an
Oh,
X-Acto knife.
Cool.
You can see the back, like the back end of the door right there.
Yeah,
I had to
yeah.
cut it down smaller, but yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing a newsletter, so enjoy that. But I don't use Twitter or whatever much anymore. I exist in my little homegrown atmosphere, brick and mortar. I want to go back. Let me send you a fax. Maybe I can work on that. Faxes.
Let's all get pagers.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I love it.
T9. Dave will be sending us messages with T9.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
Great. Well,
are
thank
also.
you for joining us, Dave.
Yes, thank you for joining.
We're really happy that
Hey,
you came.
always happy to be here with the OGs, the original gangsters of Fallout podcasting.
Mm-hmm. Don't forget, we're also on Twitter at That Fallout Show. We Just Love Games at We Just Love Games. Shalene at Shalene L. Myself at Vendertron N. And we're also on Facebook, That Fallout Show, facebook.com/That Fallout Show, and the groups, as well as We Just Love Games. There's also a Facebook group for that. Please subscribe to youtube.com/We Just Love Games. You can also find our show on iTunes, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to fine podcasts. And please leave us a review on iTunes. We'll shout you out on the show. As I said, we record the show live every other Friday, 6:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, right here on twitch.tv/We Just Love Games. Please check out our other sister show, Game Stack Podcast. Thank you all for listening. And Shalene, what is your last word?
Yeah, I've got nothing. I'm sorry.
Dave.
I forgot that was a part of the show we did.
Dave, have you got a last word?
A donut a day will keep the radiation away.
Brilliant. Good night, all.
We'll always have the time to talk about the wastelands, talk about the lore, talk about surviving radiation storms, talk about the doubts, talk about the fears, talk about the game we all love. It's Fallout through the years. That Fallout Show.